Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Touch Podcast. On today's video, we're going to be doing a review for Blood Hunt number 4. This is the regular version. I haven't read the red band version, so we'll get into that for sure. But let's talk about the creative team here. This is written by Jed MacKay with art by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marte Gracia, letters by Corey Petit. We continue on with the story. If you haven't read issues 1, 2, or 3, there will be spoilers for that because I have to tell you where we are at this point. So, in this issue, Doctor Strange and Clea court a new ally, but at what cost will this aid come? Also, we see Hunters, Moon, and Tigra do the same, but can this shadowy figure be trusted? And meanwhile, the Avengers are giving the battle they sorely crave in order to avenge their fallen friends. But in the darkness is their light. Yeah, really interesting because we've split off, right? Now I will say this issue doesn't touch on the follow up from Dracula, and we don't know where everybody's gonna be. We don't know where Blade's daughter is at the time. We don't know what's going on with a lot of the players in this case, but we definitely know that the stakes are super high as the temple of the first blasphemy has fallen upon Earth. So this was a really fun issue. There's a lot of revelations. A lot of things are finally coming to the light. No pun intended. Let me bring you up to date with some of the key players here. Of course, we have Doctor Doom, Blade, Doctor Strange, and Clea. We also have Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, The Vision, Iron Man, Thor, and Captain Marvel, and Captain America as part of the Avengers. The Midnight Mission, as I touched on the synopsis, Hunters, Moon, and Tigra, and the Blood Coven with the Bloodstorm 1, Smoke Eater, Cruel, the Machine, and Unusual. Those little weirdos that Jed MacKay created for this absolute banger of an event. I've been having a lot of fun with this. I just think that it's going to some really interesting places. Like I mentioned, we get some pretty big reveals, which you may see in the preview art. So if you don't want to see any of that, step away because it is part of those first 5 pages that I normally show in a video. But I want to show at least the first 3 because, oh my goodness, Pepe Larraz is just drawing on another level. I love the design of the temple as it just kind of sits atop New York City now. And then just these cool shots of Clea and the astral form of Doctor Strange going to beckon the help, of course, of another great sorcerer, Doomsday. I mean, Doctor Doom in Latveria. I was reading the location of Doomstat, Latveria, and that's where Doomsday came from. But yeah, as you can see, the whole world is shrouded in darkness, so I think it's really cool. Like uh, you know, the colors are just so amazing here that they really give you this vibe of things really going array. So yeah, so here comes a little bit of spoilers as we get a big revelations in the next few pages. That's right. Blade is Varney, who is the first vampire, and he's taken over Blade because he required that. Funny enough, I love that Doctor Doom already was aware of this. Like he knew this information, even though this hasn't been revealed. He already knew this relation because he is Doctor Doom, and you get a little reference here as to Blade, the Vampire Hunter, number 5. So you can go check that mention of this character or this entity of Varney. But where do we go from here? If the first vampire, if this entity is here and it's put all these things into motion, first of all, how do we get Blade back? And what can the Avengers and the other people do to get the sun to come back out? Ultimately, what is the plan? We only have one more issue left, and I think things are very, very interesting. All the times have been really fun. I've been talking about a lot of them. Specifically, the one I like the most, probably Dracula, is really good. And also, the Amazing Spider-Man's been a lot of fun. That one doesn't tie in as much here. But also, of course, Moon Knight. Anything that Jed MacKay is writing, you probably should be reading along with this story. It feels to me like Jed MacKay put the story together a long, long time ago, and we're finally, collecting the fruits of those labors. So. Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Vengeance of the Moon Knight number 6. This is a new book from Marvel Comics, and of course, this is a Blood Hunt tie-in. So let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Jed McKay with art by Devmalia Pramanik, colors by Rachel Rosenberg, and letters by Corey Petit. Really cool cover by David Paratore. Not familiar with some of these artists, but it's really interesting, and I love that. Marvel's bringing in some outstanding talent. So let's talk about this issue here. In this issue, the Midnight Mission joins the hunt as the Marvel Universe devolves in a panic and fear with the unfolding blood hunt. Jed McKay cast his gaze from the events of the main event to this companion tie-in. With more chaos on their hands than ever before and no tested leader to show them the way, the Midnight Mission is on their own as they fight like hell to save New York and its people from completely being overrun by vampires. So yeah, this is the supplemental book. As I mentioned, anything that Jed McKay's writing as far as this event, you probably want to check out. So mainly this and the Avengers book. The main Avengers book is also written by Jed McKay. And here we see some of the fallout of like all these vampires. Now, of course, two of the members of the Midnight Mission are vampires. So how can they trust them? How can anybody in New York that needs help trust them? And that's kind of what we see highlighted in the first few pages as we get into the preview. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not very familiar with Pramanik on art, but man, oh man, they do such an excellent job here. Very stylish. Listen, Alessandro Capuccio has really raised the bar when it comes to this, and I think editorial really found an artist that can play in a very similar field to Alessandro, even though it's very different, right? I love the angles here. I love the puddle of blood and the vampires just kind of disintegrating, but just the look of fear in this dude's face. That's what really does it for me. Like really, really cool. And then, of course, the Midnight Mission has their own problems. I love this callback. This is very much like Alessandro Capuccio, like just really reminiscent of that art, which is great, so that we can really highlight that this is a flashback. Even the hair is different. You see, here is more of a dreadlocks type of thing, whereas here is just more puffy, right? From how the hair looked back then. So yeah, really cool. Like just great attention to detail, and I really appreciate that in my storytelling. So this has been a really fun book. I think it's been announced that this is coming to an end because, especially if you read read this before you read Bloodhound #4. I think that'll be it'll really keep the tension high. But yeah, this is going to be fun. But this book is coming to an end. It looks like we are getting a follow up book from this, also by Jed McKay. So Moon Knight and the crew, the Midnight Mission, seem to be still in good hands after this. So very excited to see how that happens. Very excited to get into all that. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Thanos Annual #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. So let's talk about this book. Really, really cool book. A great cover here illustrating really pretty much the premise of this book. We have a lot of the reality stones that have been personified. They found hosts in real life. But let's talk about the creative team before we get into all that. This is written by Derek Landy with art by Salvador La Roca, colors by Guru FX, letters by Corey Petit. I do like that we do have a mystery. I believe this is the Mind Stone. Uh, yeah, yeah, because the Soul Stone is the orange one. So I believe the Mind Stone, we don't know who it is. But let's get into this book and give you a quick synopsis. Now, this story, the Infinity Watch story, will continue across different annuals. So the next one, I believe, is the Spider-Man annual. So make sure, like, there is no Thanos Infinity Watch #2, right? It's just going to continue in a different book. So welcome to Infinity Watch, the annual event of 2024. Starts here as Thanos, after the events of his own series, which make sure to go read. Christopher Campbell did a fantastic job wrapping that up. The Math Titan goes off to find the Infinity Stone. He's in for a shock when he discovers that the stones have been incorporated into actual people like Star, Quantum, Overtime, Prince of Power, and Multitude. But wait, there are 6 Infinity Stones and only 5 people here. You don't want to miss this Marvel Universe shaking saga. So that's a really fun premise, right? The stones have found host, or they've been incorporated with them. Thanos is coming off a really interesting story from Christopher Canwell. So yeah, I like Derek Landy. I don't read a lot of his stuff, but I every time I see his name pop up, it's always a little story like this that's kind of vaguely disconnected from the larger Marvel universe. It kind of shows up in a mini series or something like that. I don't know if I read a Landy ongoing. And then we have Salvador La Roca, who also like he's been drawing superheroes for a long time. So at this point, you either enjoy the way he works or you don't. So let's pull up some preview art here, and we see here Thanos just another world conquered, another experiment failed. Like I said, this guy's got a lot of time on his hands after the last series. Uh, and then love how casual this scene is of Thanos just showing up to confront Star, looking for the Reality Stone. And yeah, just of course, Star's powers are reality bending, so she's got a lot of really fun ways to fight, including turning the floor into literal lava. So yeah, I mean, fun ideas, really interesting story. Always cool to see Thanos after the stones. And then also this leads to really fun covers because it is an annual, and Marvel's gonna squeeze as many dollars as they can out of the readers. But I think in this case, there's a lot of really fun variants, so you can see those at the end of the video. But I'm gonna follow this. I think I'm gonna keep reading this Infinity Watch story along the annuals, so I can keep you guys updated. Hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be talking about Venomverse Reborn #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. It's part of a whole new kickoff, an event that's coming in the Venom world. So let's talk about the creative team before we get into this. This has three different stories. We have the first part, Five Questions by Al Ewing, with art by Danilo Beirut and letters by and colors by Ceci de la Cruz. This is a story that's going to continue mainly in the Venom series. We'll talk about that in a second. We also have Kiss the Ring by Christus Gage, Greg Land on pencils, Jay Liston in inks, and Frank Dermott on colors. And then the host story by Benjamin Percy, whose work you might have been reading in X Force, Wolverine, Ghost Rider. Really cool stuff so far. With art by Brian Lovell and Ruth Rethman on colors. All letters done by Travis Lanham. Great cover by Tony Daniel. And then we'll also have a few other covers at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. So there's a new kind of thing kind of being kicking off here. This book kind of tries to put a lot of those pieces into place. Now, the stories themselves, I think they are interesting. They're fun. So let's take a look here, just at a quick high level overview of this book. The Darkest Web is respun. Dive back into the darkness as the Venomverse is reborn, with stories of symbiotes from all across the multiverse. First, we have Benjamin. I don't know why it says first when that's the last story in the book, but Benjamin Percy and Brian Lovell spin out a tale of murder of the Earth's mightiest heroes by one of their own. But who? Then Christus Gage drags the Venom from the Insomniac games, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, across the Venomverse to take on Null. This is the Gage Greg Land story. And then we also have Al Ewing with the framing device of this book as they set the stage as to what's going to be going on in the ongoing Venom series. So let's pull up some of the preview art here and let's talk about these a little bit. So here we have the team once again, and I'm a big fan of Al Ewing. This Venom book has not been. There's a lot of concepts in this Venom book that I'm not super caught up with. I'm not caught up with the series itself. This is so different to what Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman were doing that it definitely has taken me a little bit to kind of get back invested in the series. I do like Venom as a character a lot, and I was thinking getting back to the Venomverse was going to be the way for me to kind of re-spark that. But there's a lot of high, heavy concepts, it seems. As you can see, we're talking to a hand. We're asking questions of this hand. So I think this is looking interesting. This might be something that I revisit in a collection. So now let's pull up. This is from the second story, Kiss the Ring, with Gage and Land. Uh, I really like the look of the Venom from the Insomniac games. I was not very familiar because I haven't played that game yet. And this is Greg Land art, and I think Greg Land art, you either take it or you either like it or you don't. It definitely feels like the same style now, just applied to Venom. Like this, yeah, this Null is not my favorite rendition, especially after seeing what Ryan Stegman has done with the character. So it's really interesting to see Null back in the pages for sure. But this is kind of a flashback that maybe like a retcon that they're trying to slip in there, which is interesting at least. I will say that. So and then let's talk about the last story here. This is the Benjamin Percy story. This is a lot of fun. I don't know how closely it will tie in. There's a page that I omitted from the preview because it's pretty gnarly. But this is definitely a murder mystery. So that's really fun stuff that Benjamin Percy can take you there. So yeah, and Brian Level, like I think he's been working with Percy in other books, and I really like the way that um, Level approaches storytelling, especially when you have to get a little bit more violent or gruesome. I think it really works. So overall, not my favorite book. I definitely wanted to make a video about it because these oversized books are big. They can be a big part of your budget for the week. So if anybody's looking to make up their mind, I would say revisit this maybe when it's in the unlimited. If you have access to the app, when it hits your library, when you can get the collection, so you can at least enjoy everything at once. But this was definitely not my favorite stuff that's coming out for Venom. I really lost track. I will say though, all the covers you'll see at the end of the video are so much fun. They're really cool. So Venom always has that going for himself. I think the fact that Venom just looks cool. So let me know, what did you think about this story? Are you excited for this Venomverse Reborn things that are kicking off now? Uh, yeah, leave all that stuff in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.